for joining us this afternoon to chat with us about the Tees Valley Investment Zone. I'm delighted to be joined by a brilliant panel of experts and leaders from the Tees Valley, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves in a second. The investment zone is a really unique opportunity. It's actually unique in the country. We are the only investment zone that is focusing on the digital and creative industries. And if you've been to any of the Tees Valley sessions over the last couple of days, I think you'll have kind of picked up on that common theme around this industry, this sector being a real priority for us and something that we're really excited about. So we'll be sharing with you some of our plans, but also the opportunities that we see for new partnerships for people to get involved in helping us build towards the ambition that we have. But before we get into that, I will ask our panel to introduce themselves. So Alison, do you want to...
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Alison Gwynn. I run an organisation called North East Screen, and our job is to develop the film and television industry in the North East. So I also have the real privilege of being the Creative Industries Lead on Tees Valley Business Board as well. So I am a real champion for the innovative, ambitious and totally brilliant Tees Valley. So I'm really excited to tell you more about that today.
Hi everyone, my name's Charlotte Nichol. I'm Associate Dean for Research and Knowledge Exchange at Teesside University, and that basically means working in partnership with organisations and driving innovation. And I'm working with colleagues to lead on the university's strand of the investment zone, so really looking forward to chatting to you today.
I'm Alex Hurst. I am Sales Marketing Director for Numa Group. Numa Group really is a sort of diverse group that's born out of the success of games tech company Double 11, which is based in Middlesbrough. It's allowed us to sort of diversify into these other industries. We've got games group, we've got hospitality group, and we've got property group. So we have properties in Middlesbrough town centre, we've got properties in Newcastle, and then we've got hospitality across the region as well.
Afternoon everybody, I'm Bev Byrne. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Middlesbrough and Hartlepool Development Corporations. I'll prefix it, as I have done all week, by saying I'm in week 7 of the job, so please don't judge me too harshly. But I'm really proud I get the privilege of trying to pull together everybody's wisdom and understanding what their needs are, and to be the delivery vehicle that helps to try and pull it all together and deliver that change across Middlesbrough and Hartlepool. And it's been great to talk about how we're doing that across Gresham and in Hartlepool with regards to the film studios. And I've previously worked for Hartlepool Council. I'm a Middlesbrough resident, so my heart is across absolutely everything.
Hi everyone, I'm Mick Ross. I'm Chief Executive of Generator and Interval Records. So Generator is the UK's leading music sector development agency. We're based in Newcastle and now Hartlepool. And Interval Records is a joint venture partnership with EMI North. EMI North is a extension of EMI based in Leeds, and they have many partnerships around the north.
Thank you all. I think this panel, the representation on this panel is a real reflection of the opportunity and the ambition of the investment zone. It's a kind of a dynamic collaboration between the combined authority, the development corporations, our local authority partners, but also the university and industry. And I think there's kind of a really brilliant opportunity and balance there in terms of the skills and the expertise that are being brought together in the co-design of the investment zone to really make sure that it works for industry, to make sure that it works for place and for local communities, and to ensure that we're a region that's ready to do business with those that want to help us on the journey that we're on. So I think today we're going to try and give a bit of a flavour of that ambition, but the practicalities of how we're going to go about realising that. And so Alison, I was wondering if you could start us off. I think obviously the work that you do across the screen industries is really influential, the work that you're doing right across the north on that, but also as our creative industries lead on the business board. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about what a place needs to get right in order to attract and retain creative talent and businesses. How do we ensure that we're kind of creating the conditions for that talent to locate to stay in, to thrive? And where is the Tees Valley on that journey currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be worth saying a little bit about the journey that we've been on over the last few years. So film and telly is my thing, and I am tasked to deliver growth in that area, and what fundamentally that means is more inward investment in jobs. We want more local people having great opportunities, working, thriving, creating brilliant content. Now, the North East for decades, absolutely decades, had the lowest level of production across the whole of the UK. So less than 0.5% of content was made across the North East and Tees Valley. So what that meant was, if you were a resident and you wanted to work in film and telly, unless you got a job in Vera, no better place to be murdered than the North East, on telly only, obviously. But you would have to leave the region. So if you were financially able to leave the region to work in the sector, that was a shame, but it was something that you had to do. Or if you couldn't, you would actually have to give up on your dream and work in a different sector. The step change came actually a number of years ago, and we've been working together for over 5 years now, Charlie. And the key thing was around Tees Valley, before anybody else in the region, really recognising that creative industry can change a place. It can change ambition, it can change aspiration, it can change the whole profile of how residents see themselves, but also the creative and commercial opportunities that they have. So we worked really hard in a place that wasn't recognised for telly, that had its challenges, and we thought outside the box, and we thought about how we do things differently. We were able to work with a partnership with the BBC, who really recognised that bloody-mindedness, that inspiration, that ambition, that irreverence to actually how things have been done and what's the possibility of the future and working differently. And we were able to pull that together. And as a result, we've been able to really step change. So in 3 years, we've grown the industry 131%, and we're at the start of that journey. So we're ripe, really, for the next level of investment and the next level of growth. And I think why, going back to the question, is, it's a really interesting place to be that can look at things differently and think outside the box and be welcoming and ambitious and open for business. So for me, we're only at the really early stages of development for Tees Valley, and I'm like dead excited, and I hope there's people in the room who think they'd want to be part of the gang, and we can work on growing that even more.
Thanks, Alison. And I think what feels really positive is that through the partnerships that we have with you, with Generator, that we're able to take a kind of a 360-degree view of what industry needs. So the way that we're able to look at the skills agenda, the way that we're able to look at kind of the business support, but also, I guess, and I'm kind of conscious of this audience, the underpinning environment that we're creating in physical terms. And Bev, you might want to come in on this as well, but Alison, do you want to how do we need to meet the needs of industry so that we're shifting, for example, from production that's coming in on location to production that is made and of the region and stays in the region, and how does the investment zone help with that?
So that's not straightforward, and it's a long journey, but what we've got to do is we've got to do everything all at once, all at the same time. So we've got to bring big production into the region. We've got to create an environment where you can make shows, and we've got talent, and we say yes to production, and we can service that really efficiently, because that's the thing that gets people jobs and experience, right? That's the skills pipeline. At the very same time, we've got to grow our Indigenous production companies, because if you just rely on inward production, when the money runs out, the industry goes. So we've got to create a really sustainable environment where unheard voices find their voice. And the exciting thing for me, and we work with the BBC, but we also work with all of the other broadcasters, is we're not asking for anybody to do us a favour by being in Tees Valley. It's actually a really brilliant opportunity, because we've got untold stories, we've got really quirky stories. And a success that you can all find on iPlayer is we worked with the BBC and Hat-Trick on a little show called Smuggy Queens. And that's a BBC 3 show. We supported the pilot, we supported first series. First series was nominated for 3 BAFTAs, and it's about drag queens in Middlesbrough, and it's bloody brilliant, and it's authentic, and it tells our own stories. and we want to do more of that. So I don't think that could have happened anywhere else than Tees Valley. So so we want to do everything all at once, all at the same time.
Excellent. And why shouldn't we? Mick, just to bring in a kind of, obviously Alison has spoken about the screen industries. For the music industry, Generator, as you've said, is expanding its footprint into Tees Valley. You're soon to be resident in Hartlepool and working right across the region. What makes the place work for you? But also, kind of, how much further do we need to go? What do we need to do to make this a region that really works for music industry?
I think first and foremost, it's you and the team. So, got to serve up those flowers really from that point of view. We work with CAs across the north and LAs across the north, and we've never been able to get the work done as quickly as we've been able to get it done in Tees Valley. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the talent. So obviously we work with talent across the country, whether that be artists or professional talent. And you know what we're seeing is all of the talent that we're signing from an artist point of view is actually coming out of Tees Valley. It's not coming out of Newcastle. It's not coming out of, occasionally it's coming out of Liverpool, but we're not signing talent from Manchester. We're not signing talent from Newcastle. Not that often. So the talent base in Tees Valley from an artist point of view is a massive opportunity, given that it's been quite underdeveloped for a long stretch of time. But I think anyone looking at the region, that gives you the opportunity to help build infrastructure. We've got a distinct lack of venues. We don't have recording studios there, and we don't have kind of rehearsal facilities and spaces, which I know is something that you're looking at, which encourages that creative content across the board. So for the screen industry to work with the music industry, for the music industry to work with marketing, to work with, you know, all of that various types of creative content. And I think Tees Valley is like really ripe in terms of what you're looking to achieve with the creative zone for that. It's not something I think we could deliver in the other areas that we're working in. You know, we've done great deals with Warner in Newcastle, and that's going to be a fantastic facility. But this is a different thing, and it's a different opportunity. And as I say, I'm hard pressed now to find a place that I can name where I'm getting the same level of talent that I'm getting in Tees Valley.
Well, that's brilliant to hear. So the industry leaders are doing their thing and making it work from that perspective. Bev, how do you manifest this into a delivery approach through the DCs?
Yeah.
How do we change our physical environment? And Alex, you might want to jump in on this because you guys are kind of really getting your hands dirty in this space as well. But how do we change our place and adapt our place to really make space for this creative talent and the work that it generates?
It's like the ultimate dream job, I think, for me, being selfish. But there's not a lot of people that can come into a new role and have an industry that's absolutely bought into the place and can see the opportunities, but also that we've got the ability with our local authority partners that have had the vision, that have secured government funding, and now having a development corporation that's got the ability to move at pace, that we're almost kind of ripping up the rule book and starting again, and we've got a huge opportunity to break new ground in the way that we're doing things, and really being mindful and responsive to the needs of industry. So if we use a couple of examples, obviously with Numa sitting next to us and our developer partners at Gresham, not only are the DCs focusing on traditional regeneration of town centres in terms of bringing the heart back, but we're also responding to the demand and the lead that we're getting from the industry around. We've got some really talented people that are doing amazing things in Middlesbrough and in the Tees Valley, and we're losing them because the quality of accommodation isn't good enough, but they want to stay where they were brought up and they want to contribute back. So the DC's ability to listen to that and to build that into our plans, and then I'm sure Ben would give me a kick in if I didn't mention we managed to secure a £200 million investment and get planning permission in 10 weeks. That ability to move at pace is quite unprecedented. So obviously the pressure's on for everything else, but it proves it can be done. And I think going back to Mick's point about the spirit and the collegiate way of working across the Tees Valley, and in particular the ability for the DCs to act in the intermediary for councils who've got vision, they have capacity struggles, but we can be the extra shot in the arm that helps them achieve what it is that they want to achieve jointly, and also helping them to build on some of their broader policy objectives is wonderful. And then if we look at Hartlepool, working collaboratively with Hartlepool Council, to create some of those ancillary buildings and uses for different parts of the film and screen industry, whether it's pre and post production or sound studios, but also throwing £15 million into the expansion of the film studios in Hartlepool in a matter of literally months. Both Middlesbrough and Hartlepool are going to fundamentally change in terms of their offer, but also that visibility and the confidence that it gives to not just the market and others that we're looking to try and attract investment from, but also the people of the towns who actually, what a great confidence boost it is for them, that they get to retain the talent, the people that have worked hard to achieve all of their qualifications and do great things can do that in the town where they were born. And I think the big thing for Tees Valley that's consistent across the combined authority, each of the consistent local authorities, is a sense of pride and actually feeling that it is our time now. Manchester's had it, Liverpool's had it, Tees Valley's where the kind of the next big boom is, and we've got it right, I think, in terms of we're not afraid to try something new, and hopefully the development corporation's a manifestation of allowing that to be delivered.
There's a couple of things. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, even Darlington to a certain extent. I mean, I'm from Darlington. I'm very, very pleased with the investment that's been going on there, but it feels like even on a more micro level, we're able to now sort of separate out those local authorities and go, actually, no, it feels like Middlesbrough's turn, or it feels like Hartlepool's turn. And I think just picking up on what you said there, it's that creative thinking element that I really wasn't expecting. I've worked with local authorities years ago and it was a very different experience. I mean, we're living in different times, right? But it feels very much like people aren't going, well, you can't do that. It's like, okay, well, let's try. Collaboratively across the board, that's private, public. You know, there's all these different stakeholders that are going, well, okay, why not? Why can't we reimagine spaces to be something wildly different to what they might have been 15, 20 years ago, even less than that?
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the journey that Numa's been on? And I mean, I think it's so exciting, the kind of the origin story of, you know, this is your sector, you know, games, createch, that is the space that Numa originated from.
Yeah.
But now you're playing such an active and fundamental role in shaping the place that you know your employees want to live in, that you know will help you to attract talent. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's really Numa's vision. I mean, well, Lee, our founder, so he founded Double 11 in his loft in Durham. The only tie, and this sounds like I'm saying it because you're on the panel, it's not. The only tie to Teesside was the university, and I've asked Lee the question when we were doing the whole vision, mission, values, the brand framework stuff. I said, why Teesside? And he said, I wouldn't be where I was without the university. So that kind of whole ecosystem has just been really successful for him. So that talent that's coming out of the university, and then him setting up his roots there. And I think he could be one of many in a big metropolitan city somewhere, but where's the fun in that? Is absolutely where his mind is. So yeah, that's why Numa kind of exists in Teesside, and we've absolutely got this whole like commitment to regeneration, changing the local economy, and working with stakeholders in order to do that, because, you know, from a commercial perspective, it's not entirely altruistic. All of this ultimately benefits, as a commercial benefit to his business, but also to other businesses as well. And that's authentic. It's really easy for me to buy into that because it's authentic. There's no smoke and mirrors. That's absolutely what we want to deliver.
So can you give us a bit of a flavour of where you've already seen commercial opportunities and sort of where your intervention has been? So what kind
It's really difficult, Charlie, because I can't talk about
it. Okay, all right. I know. Fine.
Well, the biggest one we can't talk about. I mean, we've got the Debenhams building in the town centre in Middlesbrough, and we've got a really, really ambitious mixed-use project for that, which I can't talk about, so I should just shut up. And then we've also got other places as well, and, you know, Lee could quite easily just sit on his laurels and go, okay, Double 11 are doing really well in the tech sector, let's leave it at that. But yeah, that's not how Lee works, and ultimately that benefits us all. So we've been able to, you know, we're developing bricks and mortar in the town, and across all these different industries that we've diversified into. So it's a really exciting time, and it feels like it's the right time as well, you know, based on what we're all sort of saying. It feels like we're at the start of this journey, and we're definitely on board.
Yeah. I think, Charlotte, it was great to hear from Alex about the influence of the university historically, but obviously the uni and TVCA are partners in the delivery of the investment zone. So where do you see the uni's role in this, and kind of what are the opportunities that the uni can respond to in terms of really helping to cement this sector in the region, in terms of your influence over the skills agenda, the partnerships that you're developing, the sort of the academic landscape as well? How can that give people confidence around what we're trying to achieve here?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing I wanted to say is how radical is this panel? Because like to have a collaborative panel of like public sector, private sector, the Numa Group, I mean, the feeling's mutual. I love what they're doing. It's so exciting.
It was just a happy coincidence.
I just love it, absolutely. And we were showing Double 11 round our new digital life building, which is a £50 million digital building, like absolutely dedicated to this kind of sector. Last week, so it feels really beautiful to be here with colleagues today. So in terms of the investment zone, I suppose the context is this incredible collaborative feeling of kind of experimentation as well. I think that's come through from all of the colleagues that have spoken today. There's this feeling, when I first came to Teesside, I'd just been on a fellowship, and I'd been to New York to see some practice there, and I'd been to Mexico City. I'd seen all of this incredible work, and then I came to Middlesbrough, and I was like, wow, what is going on in Middlesbrough? There's this feeling of collaboration and an experimentation that I have never felt before. This is so exciting.
Who would have thought? Mistaken for Mexico.
I mean, always. But there is this, like, I mean, I can't stress that enough, that this kind of collaborative experimentation that is in the air and in our kind of blood in the Tees Valley. It just feels really exciting. So from an investment zone perspective, the university can support really from a kind of innovation perspective. So we will be, as part of the investment zone, if you're sitting here in your business and you're thinking, all right, well, I'm in university, yes, went there a while ago, how on earth can I benefit from the university? We work a lot with industry, so we work a lot with on industry partnerships, on industry collaborations, and almost always to have economic impact on the businesses that we're working with. So we might be able to offer a graduate to focus on, I don't know, kind of digital transformation within an organisation. They're supervised by an academic team, and your business benefits, your organisation makes more money, saves more money, and really supports the growth of this sector, which we've had like an amazing history of in this area, haven't we? And then if you're an investor and you're sat there thinking, all right, I mean, Teesside, yes, she's saying it's a radical panel, but really, is it? Yes, it is. Like, this area is absolutely fantastic in terms of the way that we work collaboratively. So for investors to know that the university is hand in hand with the combined authority, with industry, with the Mayoral Development Corporation, and with fantastic work that Numa Group is doing, it feels like a very solid ground and area to be working within.
Thank you. I think one of the things that, as I'm sort of listening, and it's so energising to chat with you all and to hear about the passion that you're bringing to our place, but I think it's really important that we also say that the passion that we have is about what we can deliver, yes, for those within the Tees Valley, but actually the impact that we collectively want to have is a global impact, it's a national impact, it's kind of beyond our borders. And I think, certainly around content creation, and Alison and Mick, we chat about this a lot, and certainly with games industry as well. I know that we share an ambition that Tees Valley is on a journey to becoming an engine room of creative production. We want global stories to be made in our region that are then shared and exported. And I think that's really important to keep in mind with some of these shifts that we're making. It isn't a self-serving shift. There is a contribution that we believe our region can make, and I also think that's really important for sustainability. So, Alison, in terms of, Bev was talking about the production village, and the supply chain, the clustering that's happening in Hartlepool around screen industries, that is brilliant in terms of our indigenous ecosystem, but does that serve a wider purpose in terms of the journey that the wider North East is on, and how do we ensure that there's a real connectivity between Hartlepool and Sunderland, or is it relevant in that wider context?
Yeah. So the short answer is, in order to grow a sector, it needs to be sustainable. So the business that can be made and served in Tees Valley is limited. We are a region of 5 towns, which is its beauty. And the studio development around Hartlepool will be a core customer, as will the locations right across the northeast. So, from Danny Boyle doing zombie films in Northumberland, the production village will only work if it serves the Hartlepool sector that is growing and emerging, but also Crownworks up in Sunderland and the global markets that hit, but also Yorkshire and Manchester. We've got to create environments where commercially there is a real opportunity to be commercially viable, serving a sector you just happen to be based. And you can get a train from Hartlepool to London in however many hours, and it's really, really easy. A lot of times when we were starting to really develop the sector in the northeast, if you were talking to a commissioner, I would literally have to point to, that's where the northeast is, not Scotland, that bit, it's that bit. And that's getting easier. And then really that first year it was like, well, if it's the northeast, it's got to be Newcastle, right? And actually go, it doesn't have to be Newcastle. Newcastle's brilliant and we love and celebrate it. But actually there were all these other opportunities. So we only want to encourage business that can be sustainable in the long term. It's growing so quickly in Hartlepool. One of the biggest challenges for me is I want every penny that could be spent in Tees Valley. And right now it's not, because we haven't got that investment. So the crew or the talent who are making shows for ITV and BBC out of Hartlepool studios are actually staying in Durham or Chesterley Street or Newcastle, because we've got a lack of accommodation. So there is a real opportunity, and I think it's exciting, because we're not trying to move the juggernaut of production that's been established for 30 years to think about being forward thinking. We're setting it up from scratch. We can be forward thinking, we can be innovative, we can be the future of production. And I think if you're looking for being in at early doors and thinking about what is, could Hartlepool be the new, better, even more exciting Brighton? Why can't it be? We're on the beach, we've got a harbour, we've got all of these phenomenal assets. So, I just think that it's a really, really interesting time. And we talk about Hartlepool and we talk about Middlesbrough and we talk about the infrastructure and development, but I think the crown jewels actually across Tees Valley and the northeast are our locations. So productions are coming because we've got industrial, we've got urban, we've got coast, we've got countryside, all within a really short drive time, and all because it's commercially worth its while. It's cost effective, and in a sector where we are facing numerous challenges in terms of whether that's Trump and his tariffs, or whether it's a downturn in public service broadcasting commissions, actually the North East and Tees Valley is really bucking the trend for growth. And it's because we're open for business, it's because we're friendly, it's because we've got money, and it's because we're easy to work with. So what we really need now is the infrastructure and the investment to be able to support that growth.
Yeah, and Bev, from your perspective with the Development Corporation, we've heard a number of potential capital asks and things that we know are on the radar, and it was brilliant to hear yesterday about the Gresham development, and accommodation is coming. Accommodation. But is it kind of in terms of some of the pipeline stuff that that we're working on, some of the priorities from the master plan? I mean, this sector is really embedded in both master plans for Middlesbrough and Hartlepool. So is there anything else that you want to share about how we're making sure that this is kind of really embedded in the planning that we're doing?
Yeah, and obviously the creative sector, the digital sectors are the key drivers, and obviously the way that the investment zones has been constructed and the fact that it's the only investment zone focused on creative and digital in the country, again, when we're looking at a USP in our ability to probably be slightly more forward looking than others, having the access to the capital which others wouldn't necessarily have to invest into those sectors is an incredible opportunity, and I'll never balk at having a load of money. But it's not just about building shiny things and giving accommodation and, you know, increasing floor space or building new studios. It's about making sure that there's a human story that sits around all of that, and the role of the development corporations is as much about accelerating and utilising all of our resources, whether it's great partners in the private sector or it's levering in investments and funders and being that front that gives confidence, as it is about making sure that there's tangible change felt in the communities where we're delivering this intervention, and that they feel that what we're doing is for them, and that we're able to really obviously show that they have and will benefit from those opportunities. Because I think it's a really fine balance, particularly the pace that we might go at these things, of doing a lot to a community, but it's not of the community. And I think we've got a really amazing opportunity to learn from what's happened in other regions, refine it, and then to kind of reform it in a way that does as much for local places as it does for putting the Tees Valley on the national stage, and hopefully using the opportunity of raising our profile, whether it's, you know, it's through Generator or it's through Alison, through those national agencies, and then obviously via the Mayor, and elevating things that way. The more confidence the development corporation can give the private sector that we do what we say we're going to do, and here's our examples of being able to move at pace. That's probably where the DCs kind of fit in and help to deliver that.
And I think this industry is so powerful in that, because it kind of has those multiple benefits. I mean, Mick, you're talking about venues. Well, actually, really embedding brilliant music infrastructure in the region creates so many brilliant opportunities for local audiences, which creates opportunities for local artists, which then has export opportunities attached to it. So we're able to kind of tackle lots of things in tandem by focusing on this industry.
I think it's also what it brings to, you know, the community around it as well. The one thing that's came out of all this for me is that everyone wants to work together in that region, in the creative industries. Each part is intrinsic to each other. So music, it's got a place in screen, it's got a place in games, it's got, you know, it's all across the board. And the fact that you're building it up rather than just trying to attract one investor or one, you know, specific lighthouse, as it were, and then trying to build it from there. You're doing it in completely the right way, because we've seen it done wrong across so many regions with music, and then all you see is the grassroots scenes die. We'll throw all the money at the big shiny thing, and then everything that supports the infrastructure around it and the ecosystem just goes away. So it's totally being done in the right way from a music perspective.
I think that's really wise, actually. There's a requirement for real authenticity, isn't there? And I think there's something in terms of each of the experiences that you've shared today that demonstrates the real power of partnership. And I think that's something that we genuinely as a region are good at, is kind of working in partnership with people. And for people that are looking to get involved and to kind of are interested in being in Tees Valley and being part of this, then I think there is a genuine offer of partnership. So kind of to wrap up, and then we're happy to take a couple of questions. I guess sort of two things, and maybe you can choose which of them you want to answer or go for both. But sort of one is, what excites you most about the potential of this partnership in terms of public, industry, university, kind of all coming together, private sector all coming together? But also in terms of the next 18 months, what shift do you hope we're able to make to really embed this ambition and kind of move us forward in that journey? And I'm asking all of you.
I'll start if you want. It's easy for me. It's talent. It's talent. You know, the fact that the talent is already there, attracting investment in terms of our partnerships and in terms of new partnerships in the region, is going to be an easy sell. Because that talent is the harder thing to find, the harder thing to develop. And the fact we've got the right skills programs in place, we've got the right partners in place. So it's definitely talent from our side.
I think from my perspective, it's a reflection on, and I think the word genuine is a really important point, that actually hopefully listening to the whole of the panel, but also anybody that's worked within the region, gets a sense of, if you're from the North East, there is a genuine desire to do the right thing. But there's also humility, that we recognise we haven't got all the answers. We know that we're at the start of a journey, but we're willing to give things a go, and we're recognising the importance of partnerships. So that really excites me, and that it's almost like the stars are aligning in a really special way. And not to hammer the point too much, but I do genuinely feel like it's Hartlepool's time. And then from a tangible perspective, we'll have planning permission, hopefully in less than 10 weeks if Ben gets his way, but relatively quickly in Hartlepool, we'll get planning permission for the film studio's expansion and the production village refurb, which then leads into, we've got potential occupiers waiting in the wings to come in and take up those things, which gives an added shot of confidence. And then working collaboratively with Numa Group and others in Middlesbrough, there's key buildings that we're looking to bring back into life that just demonstrates to the communities that we're doing what we said we want to do and that we're investing in and with them. I think that's the bit that's really exciting.
I think it's addressing the changing needs of the population as well. We've moved on from town centres being 9 to 5, this retail hub, and we've now got an opportunity. I take Middlesbrough as an example. It's not without its challenges, and there's vacant units, and some of them are quite significant spaces. But that presents an opportunity in itself to go, okay, so what do we do with that space? And certainly we've been met with no resistance from what is, quite frankly, a wild scheme.
We like exciting.
Don't we all? And I think I can't even imagine the shape we'll be in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. But it feels like we're sort of greater than the sum of our parts. Like we're all working together to create something really big and really special. And like you said, it's all coming at the right time. Yeah. Where will we be? Who knows?
Charlotte?
Yeah, for me it's the ambition and the shared vision. I think everybody is literally just saying the same, that we're like, for partnerships, I always think, what is it that you're bringing to the table? And you have to be really good at what you bring to the table, and you have to really understand that whole area. And ultimately, we're all doing that, so it feels like a really exciting tipping point. I don't know if any of you read that book, The Tipping Point, but I feel like we're at the tipping point of something, in 12 to 18 months. Who knows where we'll be, but we'll certainly have cracked on because we're working really fantastically together, so it feels great.
I'm just ready to crack on. Do you know what I mean? So the momentum is moving at pace, and actually my biggest challenge is we're about to do some redevelopment and expansion of the studios, and I've got productions lined up. So we need to get on, we need to get a wriggle on, we need to lock it down, because there's more coming. There's more coming. Let's kick the doors in.
Great, let's kick the doors in. So that is our investment zone, £160 million of government-backed investment to specifically turbocharge growth in the digital and the creative industries, and hopefully this panel has given you a flavour of how ready we are to respond to that opportunity. If anybody has any questions, we'd be very happy to take them. Yes?
Yeah, can I ask a question? So first, it's been a brilliant panel, and there's been lots of panels that have been held over the last 2 days that have been much fuller than this one and have been nowhere near as good. And Bev knows, we Craftland Design, we are hugely behind the production village and Hartlepool and everything. Is it okay? Why isn't this room full of investors desperate to be here? Because this is so strong and compelling. Is it great that this is the best kept secret, and that's because we've not got lots of people meddling with doing things in 10 weeks? Or do we need to do something so that this place is full? I can't understand why it's not full of investors desperate to get involved. And what's the panel's view of, is it great that we're the best kept secret, or do we need to do something different to kind of get this on a bigger stage?
I'm going to be a nightmare and say, is it somewhere in the middle?
I know. That's my question.
Because you're absolutely right, and I'm not one to blow our collective trumpets, but having observed other panels, and not that I think I'm particularly great, but I think we've got a really strong panel, and you can probably feel the genuineness and the energy, and the opportunity is clearly obvious. And I think from my perspective, it comes back to that point that Alison made around where is the Tees Valley in the consciousness of investors. And I think we're still, under the shadow might be the wrong phrase to use, but you say Newcastle, you say Sunderland, they've just got a gravitas. And I think we're probably fortunate that allowing some space to get us to the position that we've got to has been really beneficial, because you're right, not that we're saying investors are meddlesome, but it might have taken us down a different track, which meant this wouldn't have been the genuine, engaging and, really collegiate panel that you've observed. But I think it's maybe incumbent of all of us and everybody that's in the room today to please share what you've heard and share your confidence, because I think some of the challenges that we've had, and knowing coming from a local authority background, we can say it, but sometimes people believe it better from others. So actually, the more ambassadors we can grow, I would like to think if we did this again next year and we've moved on 12 months, we should be packed out. So I guess it's like a plea back to everybody. If you've loved it and you're on the journey with us, please do share. And then if you get, come across any investors who you think would love to invest in, certainly send them our way. But I think it's probably not done us too much harm that the room isn't packed now, but I would like to think if it's this time next year that we should be turning people away at the door.
I think you're right, Bev. We're talking about screening. Everyone likes an underdog. And I think actually Tees Valley is an underdog in this, and then people get to know us. And, we hosted Arts Council's National Council. Every year they go to one place, and they came to Tees Valley this year. And they were taken aback by what's going on in the region. But I think what Mick's talking about is that you can go for your lighthouse moment. Everyone looks at the Guggenheim and goes, oh, I want one of those. But there's something not true if everyone replicates that. And I think we've been, as Bev says, we've been taking our time, getting our ducks in a row, making sure that genuine connection, that vision is shared, making sure that the underpinning environment around skills, around business support, that is aligned. So that when the lighthouse moment comes, it lasts. So yes, that's for everybody in terms of our ambition for 12 months' time. Back here, standing room only, with lots to celebrate.
I've got my background from LDA design. I've got a kind of related question. We've been lucky enough to work on plans for creative areas in Manchester and Liverpool. Creative industries kind of thrive in unloved areas, and I guess there's a paradox between how you invest and plan for areas that should feel unplanned, I guess, and you want clustering of creative industries, and perhaps it's positive that there's not loads of stuffy investors here trying to build a glass box to create industries. How do we create that balance in the plans that you're working on and the kind of the endeavours? Because you're right, it's really impressive to see how organically grow this.
I'm happy to try and respond to that. I think what we're probably benefiting from as well is the heritage of the buildings that we've got available to us, that actually they provide the palette and the infrastructure. So we're not like dealing with big vacant open sites that you say you could just put a glass box on, it looks like anywhere in the world. Actually what we're recognising is we've got some really stunning heritage buildings that can perform a function for current needs and can bring, so we're not getting rid of the place. The place is still, has its heart as what it was, and what we're doing is taking the opportunity to utilise those key buildings. I think we do have to recognise the vision and the support that we've had from the likes of Historic England, for instance, where we've utilised some of their funding and the government's regeneration programmes, where rather than responding to their prescriptions, as Charlie says, having taken the time to build a clear picture of what we want, we've pulled those in and deployed that resource to deliver the whole of what we want, rather than it being a bit sporadic. But actually it has been sporadic because it's a building here, it's a building there, but they've been done strategically to connect things up that then allows us to make those spaces more flexible. So I think we've been fortunate, and the same will go for Middlesbrough, that there's some wonderful heritage buildings, and again that connection back to the community. Everybody's got a story about when that was a shop or somewhere they bought their school uniforms, and actually us putting money in and investing in a much loved building that's got memories is better for a place than it is to just demolish it and put a shiny box up. So I think again it's that reflection on, we might have been unloved, but that's been really beneficial because it's given us chance to really own what we do with our places.
I think as well, if I can just add on, and I realise I didn't say who I was, so that's tricky. So hi, I'm Charlie. I'm head of creative place at the Combined Authority, and have the privilege of working with this lot every day. One of the things that really strikes me though as well is that in terms of that partnership working, a lot of this is co-designed. So this isn't something that is being done to a sector. This is very much being done with the sector. And so, Alison is our rep on the business board. You also sit on one of the development corporations, and we have a creative industries advisory group that works with the combined authority to make sure that we've got the voice of industry really embedded in our thinking. And I think one of the things that we're really mindful of, like, and it's an example that you see everywhere, that the creative industries move in, an area gets cool, and then suddenly they can't afford to be there anymore, so they have to go. So in parallel with the conversations that we're having around larger scale investment and working with developers who see the opportunity in the region, we're also talking to industry directly and actively pursuing a creative land trust for the region that will actually give our cultural industries, that kind of really key to the whole creative ecosystem, more of a stake and more security through investment in property and space. So I think we need to make sure that we're always balancing, that we're letting the experts in the industry tell us what they need, and whether they lead it, whether we find the right partners to come in and do it with us, whether there's, there's got to be that balance, but co-design and partnership is key to this approach.
Guy Gilfillan from Colliers. I would like to speak as an outsider. I'm a Sheffield lad, born and bred, but I now spend 2 days a week staying in Redcar because I work on the Tees Works and airport projects from a real estate perspective. It's more of a comment really, but you may want to come back on it. The first thing is Sheffield went down big style. Major city went down big style, and I sort of grew up in that during that period. Steel, again, at the heart of the city. I saw what it did, and I saw the things it did right and the things it did wrong. And just listening to the presentation again, just to say, I think the Teesside area generally is doing those things right. I think the track you're on, the reason I got involved with the projects is because, frankly, I could see with my past experience that sometimes a place has to go so low, but then the opportunities start to arise. The other comment was just, I think you may find it a bit longer for the investors than you think, and that is because we all think that investors are kind of risk takers who ride in and take the risk. They don't. They ride in when you've got the facts and figures and the evidence to back up. So Tees Works is now an investor proposition. Because in truth, it's now got an evidence base that says it will deliver a return. You're very close to that on a lot of what you're doing. And as I say, it was just to throw that in there, just an external view. And I think you're all dead right. So
it feels like to me, it feels like no bad thing that almost the spotlight's not on us yet, because we're sort of screwing away in the background, doing what we need to do, getting like you say, getting the ducks in a row, and then all of a sudden when that spotlight is on, we're ready. And there's really significant investment that's happening. Like you say, Tees Works, we've got the 200 million Crown Square Gresham development, so the ball's rolling, and there's lots more to come.
Yeah, and we're working on it so that you can't break it. I think that's a really important thing, is that, having had that experience of a place, really what's key to Tees Valley is diversifying the economy and ensuring that the foundations are solid so that it can't be broken. And I think that's kind of where we're building to. Alison, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I just think we'll take our time, we'll go fast when we need to, we'll go slow when we need to, but it'll be based on real.
Yeah.
So I think you're right about the evidence. And I think once we've opened the studio and we can prove that production's in, it'll move at pace at that point. I mean, I think the interesting thing for me today is, who wants to be in early?
Yeah.
That's a conversation to have, and then we'll talk to everybody else next year.
Yeah. And even though we're still in that development stage, I do think that some of the international partnerships, the national partnerships that you guys have been building, that will still surprise people. So if people are coming and saying, we'd like to do something, we've got some really significant partners who can kind of come in on that as well and are looking for the right opportunities too, that are working and leading in the creative industry. So there's some nice bit of matchmaking that we can do as well, I think.
The evidence is we've been going to Innovation Zero. You'll have been doing South Africa. Obviously, I'm only involved in one, but we started going to Innovation Zero because of the ambitions for Tees Works. And I'll be honest with you, the first one we went to, which was either 3 3 or 4 years ago, I can't remember now. Being frank about it, nobody knew where Teesside was. They really haven't got a clue. Now, when we go down, everybody seems to know where Tees Works is, and they want to come and ask questions. But just going back to what you were saying, be careful the spotlight doesn't swing on you before you're ready, because that's the other thing that I think I learned in the past.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're not ready when it happens.
Does anyone else have any questions? Panel, you're sticking around?
Yeah, stick around.
So join us for a drink. We're happy to chat, and thank you all so much for being here this afternoon.
Brilliant.
Thank you.